I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Jester?
Here.
Ms. Romeo?
Here.
Ms. John?
Here.
Mr. Sherrill?
Here.
Dr. Shue? Colonel Hosmer?
Okay, do we have any special guests or special recognitions tonight?
Our guests are always special, but there are no special recognitions this evening.
Very good. Architects report.
If I may, the architects are here this evening on Freedom Elementary, but I would like to defer that to item 7A, if I may.
Okay. Departmental report?
Not this evening. It is testing time, and we're trying to keep them hooked up. So.
Okay. Report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much. Under item 7A, we have consideration and action concerning bids for Freedom Elementary. I thought about standing up and dancing on top of the table as I present this to you because we waited so long to get to this point to bring this to you and move. No. We simply are at that point we've been looking for the last couple of years, and I would like to present to you this evening. You have the bid documents, I believe. Are those distributed to each board member? You don't have those. Well, do you have copies, Jason, or do we need to make a copy? Either way, that's certainly my error. I thought we had copies of those already. If not, we can quickly do that because I think it's critical that they have the opportunity to see those. Okay. Thank you, and my apologies that was not already at your place. Thank you, Miss Denise. I've got one. Thank you. You might give that. The bids were opened last Thursday, April 18th. The architects have spent the weekend in the first part of this week reviewing and going through the documents, talking to the low bidder, talking actually to several of the bidders, gathering information. The range of the bids is pretty significant. The low bid was $40,471,451 for the base bid, and the high bid was $48,200,000. So there's basically a 20% difference between the bottom and the top bid. The low bid is significantly lower than the other bids that were submitted. First red flag, normally. When we started to look at the bids, we found that if you will look at the next two lines right under the bid for Harper Construction, which is low bid, you will see that Phase 1 and Phase 2 have a total of 600 construction days. That's a little bit less than 2 years. All of the others are from 793 to 1,080. They are able to bring this in, and this is part of what the architects have been looking at and talking with them about. They're able to bring this in less time because they do a great deal of the work themselves and are not dependent on subs. And I'm talking about major things such as plumbing, electrical work, those type things. They're not bid out to subs. They do them in-house. So they have complete control rather than being dependent on a subcontractor for the project. If you work out the formula, basically the overhead cost or the cost that they're incurring each month is about $400,000. Since they are able to do this in a significantly less amount of time than the other bidders, they are able to save the difference in the bids. So the bids are really comparative. If you extrapolated their days out and added that additional $400,000 in cost for that additional time, you would get a bid that is not very far off from those you're seeing. So there really is not the disparity in bids that you would think just by looking at the numbers. The disparity is in the time they're going to be on task. They're only going to have to pay laborers for 600 days, not 800 days. They're only going to have to pay for their overhead and other insurances and bonds and things of that nature for a significantly less period of time. That is a win for us in big time, and it's also obviously, if we accept their bid, will be a win for them. Now, underneath the calendar days that are shown there for phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're actually down on the 4th line where it says alternate number 1. I would ask you to go all the way down to alternate number 4, which is $37,000, $37,030 for certified wood. Now, I'm not going to do an expert job in explaining this to you, but very simply, that simply means that the person or the wood that is being furnished meets LEED standards, which are a requirement of this contract, that we have to meet LEED standards. And LEED standards are basically standards that hold our feet to the fire regarding energy and environment issues. Certified wood will meet those standards, give us a point, and we must have 50 points on this project according to the conditions of the grant in order to build it. That is a point just by using certified wood. It is not that the wood may be any different than non-certified wood. What may have happened in this instance is that the person providing the wood agreed to plant 10 trees when they cut one down. And so there's an environmental issue that makes that quote-unquote certified wood. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened here, but those are the kind of considerations given by the government to the classification of these products. So I would recommend that we accept alternate number 4 because it is a competitive price for the most part with all of the other bidders. There's one bidder in there that's at $4,300, but they're also $8 million higher than their base bid. So I figured they put their profit someplace else, not on the certified wood. All of the other alternates, I would recommend we reject. Now, what we will do is go back and bid them separately. The reason I recommend we reject those, and just to give you an example, would be if you look at alternate 2A, B, and C. Those are playground equipments. The numbers from this particular contractor are, in most instances, significantly higher than the other contractors, which tells me we can get a more competitive bid on those items if we bid them ourselves. We'll use the same dollars that we would spend here, but we hopefully will use less of them. And so the only alternate I am recommending to you this evening for Harper Construction with the base bid of $40,471,451 is alternate number 4. And I'll be glad to try to answer any questions I can. Mr. Williams, Mr. Ridings are here. They certainly have far more expertise and in-depth knowledge than I do.
Who's going to be responsible for doing the inspections on the property as it's being constructed? There
are actually 3 groups that are involved. You'll remember the last time I brought to you some inspections from the city of Lawton that they would do. Also, Fort Sill will take on a component of inspections. And we will have a full-time inspector of our own out there that is already on our payroll. Mr. Ledford, Kent Ledford, will be assigned to the project through its duration. That will be his sole task.
Will he be inspecting that project daily, weekly, monthly?
He will report to work there every day. That will be his job assignment. And he will be on that. He is to gather logs from the contractors. He is to take care of exactly what you're concerned in. He is to be on top of it. He will have and will communicate to the bidder or to the contractor. He will have authority to stop the project at any point on behalf of the owner and say, we're stopping here until we have clarification as to whether or not we have done this according to the specifications that were required.
And is the state of Oklahoma going to be involved in the inspection process at all?
No, because it's on federal property, they are not involved in that. Now, we will probably, and when I say probably, we will see that the Corps of Engineers is involved through Fort Sill on a rather limited basis, but they will not be inspecting the way they would be if it were a federal project. This particular project is kind of unique in the fact that once we lease the land and once we pay to build the building, we are exempt from a lot of the federal regulations. Even the Davis-Bacon Wage Act we're exempt from, which was roughly a $3 million savings in that particular area. But it is still on federal property. But we will own the building, they will own the land, and that's one of the reasons we had to get the city involved in the inspections, because the Corps of Engineers said we can only do a limited very limited amount, and that'll be to support what Fort Sill does.
Barry, you talked about if they don't finish the job or they have a certain allotted amount of time to do the job. Do we have a fine process in where if they don't finish it in a timely fashion?
There was not a cost built in to do that, and the reason for that is they build that into their bid.
Okay.
They build in that they will have X number of days that if they're late, you'll pay them the money, they'll turn around and give it back to you.
Right.
So that escalates our cost. If you don't have those days, then they just make additional profit. This particular job, based on the 600 days, should finish around the 1st of March of 2015. That will give us till the 1st of August to actually get in the building. So let's say they have 60 contingency days or weather days because we eventually get some rain. We still would be able to take possession of the building roughly May to June timeframe and easily get into the building.
But they wouldn't turn around and charge us more if it took them longer.
They cannot, if they don't do it in 600 days, any additional costs they have, they're incurring, and it's out of their profit.
Themselves. Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
It's the architects. Have you folks worked with Harper Construction in the past?
We have not worked with Harper before, but we have been informed that a lot of the construction at Fort Sill has been performed by Harper Construction over the last 10 years.
They built that in housing out there.
You don't, your firm has the first one.
No, we have not.
It's a major firm out of San Diego.
I'm
And
very familiar
are you,
with them.
I'm hoping it's a positive, familiar?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I know that they had a whole, where I work is at DPW, and they had a lot of major problems with storm drain and just items like that when they built the first round of housing. Now, the second round, I don't know anything about because we don't take care of that particular area of housing anymore. And I hope that they're doing better. They did do all the new barracks on Sheridan Road, and we really haven't had any structural issues. We do have plumbing issues, though.
Okay.
But I think that was because of the way it was drawn. I can't really say that they were responsible for it. They did the job correctly. It's just that the engineer that drew it didn't foresee so much occupancy at once.
Okay.
In our particular case, we're going to have a full set of plans, and a lot of the specifications the federal government has had a lot to do with because of the money, the grant, and of course we're going to have representation on site. Is the architecture firm going to have representation on site as well?
We will be there very often. It will be multiple times during the week, if not daily, for a good portion of the beginning of the project. And we'll be working with Mr. Ledford regularly, as well as our engineering and consultants.
Jason, if you would, describe the process of working with the city and with Fort Sill in the development of the plans, the reviews and all they made, so that...
As everyone is aware, this has been a very long process. We have worked closely with the fire prevention branch at Fort Sill, which is chiefly responsible for life safety issues. We've also worked closely with Doug Wheelhouse, the chief code enforcer at the city of Lawton. Doug has gone through the plans with us and made sure, as we have, that the project meets current prevailing codes. There are some other requirements that many don't apply to us because we are exempt, but there are some other requirements regarding anti-terrorism, force protection, and again, the sustainable concerns that Barry, Mr. Beecham, has already mentioned. And so all of those things have been taken into consideration as we've designed the project. We've also had a third party new set of eyes, a commissioning agent, as part of this process. And so they have done 2 now reviews of the bid documents. They did one, I think, at 75%. They did another one, I think, at 95%. And these are engineers who understand the code and who understand mechanical and electrical systems, and they have made sure that we're thinking of all of the scenarios. They will be involved during construction to commission the project. We close out every project very well, but on this particular project, there's a very thorough closeout process that's called commissioning, where we turn on systems, we have inspections during the construction process by this third-party agent, and they're also involved with some of the lead services that are part of the project. And so working with them, as well as our engineering consultants, ourselves, and Mr. Ledford, we feel very confident that there'll be a lot of folks keeping an eye on the contractor.
And if I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the commissioning group works even after the
That's correct.
Construction is finalized. They continue to
Correct.
inspect
There's
and make sure things are functioning as we take control of the building and
Correct.
start to operate.
Yeah, that warranty period is 12 months following, substantial completion of the final phase. There's actually 2 substantial completion points on this project. One for phases 1, and then there's another one at the very end of phase 4. Once those substantial completion points are reached, the 1-year warranty will begin. But during that warranty period, that commissioning agent will be involved measuring the building performance against the owner's target criteria. We've written a complete narrative about temperature values in the classrooms, temperature values in the hallways, the lighting levels, and different things of that nature. We'll be measuring the utilities that are used in the building and making sure that we're meeting our criteria. And so all of those things will continue through the warranty period, and if modifications need to be made during that period, they will be made by the contractor at his cost.
And as I understand, if I remember correctly, the Corps of Engineers was very much involved in the preparation of the area that they had to fill.
They did have the
landfill.
Yeah, they did a reclamation of the land because it had previously been a landfill. They had to go through, because of the way federal law is written and regulations, they had to make sure there was no, that all the integrity of archaeological integrity was maintained on the site. So, and then they came in, and unfortunately for us, the requirement that they had when they came and put the fill in for what they had taken out only required them to compact it to a 90% level, if I remember the contract correctly. We require 95% or more to do that. So it will have to be recompacted, but we do know it's clean and good to go. So it should be a relatively straightforward process, and that's all built in to the base bid.
What kind of bonds does Harper have to put up for the contract period?
Well, there's two primary bonds. They submit with their bid proposal a bid bond.
Right.
And so if they fail to execute a contract because they decide to default, that would kick in and would really cover some of the cost between the next bidder and their cost. The other bond that they would provide is a performance bond, and that is something that gets reduced in value over the life of the contract. So as we continue to make 30, 45, 50% completion, we're slowly dropping off some of the bond, but if for some reason they default at year 1, the performance bond is there to make sure that the school isn't left holding the bag. So everybody can rest assured that the bonding company that Harper is using, they will be able to step in and to take care of whatever cost would happen if that should happen.
And will they be required to put up a maintenance bond?
We do not have a maintenance bond on this project.
Okay.
But the commissioning
Basically
is a year-long.
We typically do not commission any of our school projects, and we're actually very, very excited about the opportunity to do that. What that really does is it gives the school, it really gives you a better product for your cost, because you're going to pay for the school anyway, but this just makes sure that, that everything is operating as it was designed.
Very good.
And we feel our design is strong, and our engineers and architects have provided a quality product.
It's about these guys.
So hopefully those issues you saw with Harper's were indeed just simply design issues,
And I
not,
think
not quality
that
work.
really was a lot of it, because when they came back in and did whatever remediation they had to do, it worked out fine.
Great.
So, yeah. do it.
Wow.
A couple other questions about the building, if you don't mind. What kind of heating system is it going to be? A geothermal system?
Geothermal was evaluated, but because of the very inexpensive utility rates, and that there's a maximum geothermal well depth of 200 feet at Fort Sill, it wasn't there was no payback for that system. And so what we've done is used a similar system. We're using a water-cooled system where the heat pumps in the classrooms would be identical to the ones you would use in a ground source
So you're
system.
talking about a boiler chiller system?
Exactly, a boiler cooling tower actually in this case.
Okay, very
So
good.
we have a cooling tower out behind the bus loop, and then there's a boiler inside the building.
Very good. Okay.
We do have dual cooling.
Well, we do have dueling, that's right.
Yeah, and one will operate the building in an emergency situation. It has capacity to do that.
And are we going to have generators in the event of power outages or?
I think we built that in.
No, at this time, there's no backup power. Now, we have our lighting on inverters, which is,
Okay.
there's one way to do lighting is with a battery backup
Exactly.
at each light. We actually have a lighting inverter, which connects to mini lights, and it's basically a battery. And so in the event that there is a power failure, we'll have our emergency lights
I'm
operational.
familiar with that system. Yeah.
Talked at one point about the parking lot issue and the children having to cross it to get to the sports field back there in that corner. Has that been changed?
What we've done is we've provided crosswalks at key points where students would be crossing, and we've raised those up to be level with the sidewalk. So they're actually a speed bump that's raised, kind of like you would see at Will Rogers Airport.
Okay, okay.
They're 60 inches wide, aren't they? Something.
The crosswalk, yes.
Yes.
I think they're actually wider than that. 60, I think, is the minimum, but I think they're a little bit wider than that.
We don't have any kind of retention ponds or anything?
We do. We do have one. It actually sits right on top of the existing Geronimo School. So it would be built at the very end of the project. Once that portion of the school is gone, in the meantime, the contractor will make temporary arrangements to have the stormwater either routed to the creek or have it routed to the drainage structure along the road.
That retainage pond is surrounded by fencing.
Yes.
Iron railing, iron rail fencing, where it's obvious from the front, and then the black cyclone fencing in the back.
I also noticed that there was a lot of natural lighting being utilized from that hallway, coming in that main hallway. Are you going to put in some lighting on days where it might be dark and things
Yes,
like that?
all of the lighting in those common areas are controlled by a light meter.
Okay.
And so it's a daylight meter. So if you have a nice sunny day in an October morning, the lights will probably be mostly off.
Okay.
They're all LED lights. But if you have an overcast day, the meter's there to turn on the lighting level to what it needs to be.
Okay.
But it's not either on or off. It actually steps it down
Okay.
in light level.
It maintains a constant level.
Correct.
Good.
To adjust.
Great. Good to know.
So we're pretty green on this project. That sounds like right where we need to be.
We will typically see on a not necessarily our other projects, because we try to follow the same measures on other schools too, but you might see a commercial project spend maybe 1.5 to 2 watts per square foot on lighting.
Right.
We're going to be like 0.5, 0.6.
Awesome.
So we're using very little energy in the building, and we don't have a lot of lights. I mean, and another nice thing about the school is there's only one light bulb in the entire school. It's a 4-foot fluorescent light. So we don't have to stock one light bulb for the whole school, which is a nice feature.
That is a nice
Only one type of light.
One type of light.
One light bulb.
height of the light bulb.
Man, I don't want kids to sit under that light bulb.
One type of light.
Barry, with your recommendation, you were talking about with these alternatives, can you tell me what exactly, it almost makes it sound like you can, we can bid out playground stuff and we can do that without having that part of the bid? Is that what I'm understanding?
That is correct. Actually, if I may, and Jason, don't move because I'm going to need you. The first 3 lines are actually the base bid, and then the phase 1, phase 2, 3, and 4 are the next 2 lines. Alternate number 1 is for concrete paving. That $640,000 that's in there is paving on the parking areas designated for cars only. The rest of the paving, the bus ramp, the service roads, all of the curbing, all of that is concrete already. So we could change from asphalt in the parking lot to concrete at a cost of $640,000. If we control the access to those areas and we don't let the buses in them and use them for what they were intended to, cars parking, there really is no need to do that. because we do have accesses for bus. We put concrete where we know we need that extra reinforcement. The playground equipment, you'll notice there are 3 playgrounds with this school, one for the early childhood, one for the primary kids, and one for the intermediate kids. If you look at those 3, you basically have $500,000 worth of playground equipment. If you look at the other bidders who are bidding the same playground equipment, some of them are half that. Right. So we feel like that whatever source they used for their playground equipment, we can find a source to do the same thing at less money. So I see no reason to accept those bids just so one contractor can do it.
Correct.
It's an expensive price, so I would recommend we reject those. The certified wood, we know we're going to have to do, and outside of the one bidder that only bid $4,300, can't do that. And then the change in the LED lights, the $15,000, you'll notice the contractor right next to it has $2,000 to do the same thing. So if we want to do that, maybe we need to look and see how we can do it ourselves. And then the last one, it says lighting protection. That is actually lightning protection, not lighting, and for $158,000. That's simply a call that we've made that we probably, to my knowledge, we don't have it in any buildings that we've built to date. I don't know if many of them have, but it is an option that was put in there. You can see that they did come in pretty reasonably on it, $158,000, when all the other bidders are around $200,000 for the same thing. So, Jason?
Basically, what lighting protection is it's a series of metal rods that would be installed at the top parts of the roof. It's all connected to a grounding system that takes that electric strike and it puts it down into grounding rods. And that way, if you do have a lightning strike, and on a tall building like this one, you might see that happen, especially when it's in the middle of a field. We'll see this happen at Fort Sill sometimes, but it displaces that electrical charge into the ground. And now it doesn't take care of equipment that might be plugged into the building, but it does protect the structure.
Well, hopefully
What
we'll
about
have
the
surge
occupants?
protectors.
Well, the occupants would be another conversation.
At another time.
So I'd like to move to accept the base bid from Harper Construction and the alternate number 4 bid.
I would second.
Is that what you need, Barry?
That's
Do you
it.
have any questions?
Do you have any other questions?
No, sir.
It's an important step.
As I understand.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Sharon,
Yes.
Miss John,
Yes.
Miss Ronio,
Yes.
Mr. Jester.
Yes. Thank you.
Great big thank you. And we will on Friday at 2 o'clock have the groundbreaking for this school. And
And I want to say, I think we have every confidence. Do a good job, and appreciate them very
They'll be
much
fine.
for coming in at a low bid.
we have tried to posture this, and I know that Mr. Ridings and Mr. Williams certainly will do their part so that it's monitored closely, and that if we perceive issues, we're on top of them at that time, and they're not surprises at the end. So. And if they are, call me and tell me about it, would you? No, I'm teasing.
And that goes back to who? When there's surprises at the end, that falls... No, I'm not talking about superintendent. I'm talking about, does that fall back in their lap, or the contractor, or the architect?
Well, I would tend to agree with Mrs. John on this. I think although projects of this magnitude always have their issues, I don't anticipate major issues. I think we have a quality design. I think we have a quality architect engineering process that's taken place. And I think our contractor, just by the fact that they have been around as long as they have at Fort Sill, knowing the process and the scrutiny they go under, had they not performed or had they not corrected the things that Mrs. Ronio brought up, they would not have lasted.
That's
So
true.
I think we're...
Jason, may I ask you one more question about the foundation of the school? What exactly is the design of that foundation?
The entire school has a pier and grade beam construction.
Okay.
There's a lot of piers in this project, but that is the primary foundation.
Just to keep it from shifting underneath that landfill.
Correct.
Okay.
I think I'm too excited to continue. Do y'all want to go on?
Did you take a break?
Yeah, let's just take a break. Let me go make the growth. Thank you, Jason, very much.
Thank you.
There will be periodic reports. We should be, and correct me again, I'll let you walk away. I need to ask one more question. I would anticipate, you stay right there and answer. I would anticipate we're looking in the neighborhood of June 1st coming out of the ground, time we get all contracts and setup done for on the project. So 7 months this year, 12 months next year. We'll be 19 months in, and they proposed basically a 20-month project. So we should be looking around early 2015, and we have enough time in there for adjustment on that and still be in school for the start of 2015, which is phenomenal. It really is.
Jason, feel free to take lots of pictures. And
Yeah,
give us some
absolutely.
more, please.
As a matter of fact, we might have Dwayne and the IT department come out and take pictures during the construction.
We have 4 cameras that will be on the web.
Awesome.
Great.
Take a picture every 15 minutes.
Great.
Wow,
Will you
really?
let us know what that web address will be?
Anyone can log in and see that.
Yeah, well, I'd like
We'll do a time lapse.
Time lapse it and watch it.
Great.
pretty neat.
Good deal.
Thank you very much.
Good to know.
Thank you, Clarence. Appreciate all the hard
Vote
work.
on that?
Appreciate it.
So, Item 7B, consideration action concerning the proposed revisions to policy EIED. Yes,
I'm like Bob.
we did vote on that, didn't we? We got voted. That is in the record, isn't it?
Get a vote, right?
Okay.
Okay.
It's a matter
That's right, I did.
of, Donna seconded, yes.
I have too many questions in my head.
Okay. Item 7B, the consideration action concerning the proposed revisions to policy EIED, which are the graduation requirements. That appears on page 2. Mrs. Ellis presented that to you this evening. You can see that there are minor adjustments in the policy, striking in the first paragraph a date and a grade level, simply putting more generic terms in there. Instead of 9th grade students, it's now just students. And it struck out the date 2006 through 2007 school year. Then further down, you'll see under history and citizenship units that it will be, those will need to be approved for college admission requirements to be accepted. And then also the addition of 1/2 unit of personal financial literacy as well. Over on page 4, you can see that there is an addition under science of physiology and SP.
I misspelled anatomy and I changed it, but we didn't give the correct date yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we'll forgive that this time, I guess. And then on page 6, that we have struck some language that says beginning with students who entered in the 9th grade in 2008. Basically, it's an updating of the policy to make sure it's in compliance with current standards, and I would present that to you for your consideration this evening.
Question while we're here at graduation requirements. Have they passed some new legislation regarding them being able to take their ACT test?
Not that I'm aware of. There actually is no legislation regarding ACT test as far as I know. Those are college boards exams, not state exams.
Right.
Some of our students take SATs.
Right.
Some take ACTs, some take both. Most universities require one or the other in order to gain admission, but there's no
I
state.
think there's been some talk in the legislature about them being able to take the ACT if they don't meet their use that a particular grade to replace their graduation requirements. They would get some sort of, you heard anything about
Mr.
that?
Smith's not here. I think what you're talking about is that there was some conversation regarding the score on your ACT test being able to replace your EOI score.
Right.
That's correct. You're
exactly
correct.
right.
You're correct. You're correct.
At this point, I'm not aware that that has been accepted, but I know it's under consideration.
Okay.
Tom, do you know, Dr. Deegan, do you know anything about that? I've not heard it move any further. It just comes. It's EOI.
EOI.
It is
Okay.
EOI, and that's considered as a replacement for this, so it's not a graduation item.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Move for approval.
Thank you. Second?
Call roll, please.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Ms. Romeo?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Item 7C, I would ask your consideration and action this evening concerning the proposed revisions to policy GK-R, the use of school property. On pages 8 through 11, you will see our building use policy. Minor adjustments here, actually most of the adjustments are in cost of the fee or the availability of a particular area and updating of some titles. You can see that we have changed the cost in these areas. Many of the costs have changed because the areas that they're asking to use are now air conditioned, where they were not when we originally did this. So there's an enhanced cost for operation that didn't exist. So when you rent a gymnasium for 4 hours, the minimum cost is now $600 instead of $225. We're of course simply going to have to look, well, it's $150 per hour on the minimum, and then if you go over that, it's $150 as well. And you can see the others. One thing that was called to my attention, a question that was asked regarding auditoriums, you'll notice under senior high school, they are not available. We do not rent our high school auditoriums out. The 2 reasons. One, they are equipped with sound equipment and lighting equipment that people using them would not be prepared to operate properly. And 2, that is an area of the school that high schools use more frequently than anyone else for classes in terms of fine arts and production. So we do not want to tie them up. We do have 4 middle schools, 3 of which have excellent auditoriums, and those are available to the public. In the middle area, you can see we just simply changed junior high to middle schools and then made adjustments on the cost in that area. And then down at the bottom, we eliminated the PDC as being available for rental at this point. That is pretty much the change that has been made in that policy. It's just an amount of fees, and those are cost adjustments. That previous policy, the revisions last time were in 09. The policy was adopted in 1998 originally, and I don't think we've changed the prices on that since 98, to be real honest. I think those were the original prices. Could be an error on that, but I do believe the revisions we made in 09 were revisions to the actual verbiage of who could use it and how it could be used rather than the cost. So I would recommend to you that we make the adjustment in those areas.
Is there a reason why we don't lease Ron Stevens?
Ron Stevens gets an inordinate amount of use just from us between our.
So we're just, it's just too busy.
It's just simply the fact that there's any grass down there this time of the year is amazing. So it's truthfully just to maintain the integrity of the facility itself.
Okay.
So in here it says include support personnel services cost. Is that the janitor or for them to lock up the building?
That is, we always have someone when they're using our facilities. We have a custodian or a cook there that knows the facility and can take care of that.
We just had a wrestling banquet at Lawton High, and we had a cook and a janitor. So there you go.
Great.
So, that costs us a little bit, but it is built into the fee, and it also protects us from someone making a decision.
And they did a marvelous job, I might add.
Always. Always.
Thank you. I move for approval.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Ronio?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Under item 8D, I would ask you to consider and take action this evening regarding the proposed 2013-2014 price increases for LPS Child Nutrition Program. That appears on page 12 of your agenda, page 12 and 13 actually, and I would ask you to look at page 13. If you notice, the first chart we've given you on page 13 does a comparison of our cost versus our neighbors' cost, and the neighbors being Elgin, Cash, Duncan, and Altus. And we are significantly lower than all of those. We have not raised prices in 8 years, and I can assure you that food costs have gone up. The big thing in this particular area, however, is that the federal government, which when we receive a free or reduced lunch, has a prescribed reimbursement cost, and we have to keep our costs close to their reimbursement costs or we will not be reimbursed. So we're going to have to adjust our prices, and it's not, Mark, jump in anytime here and save me. It is not just going to be a one-time deal. It doesn't have to be as big as this particular one, which is about a quarter on average across here, but there will have to be an adjustment throughout the next few years to get us back in compliance with federal regulations so that we are still eligible to get the reimbursement subsidy from the federal government on the free and reduced meals. Please.
And that is
100% correct as it states in the paragraph there, talking in regards to the $2.59 weighted average right now that the federal government is coming up with, stating that's the price of the reimbursement rates that we need to be at. So the goal is that over the course of the next few years, that you increase a gradual amount until you get your average weighted cost to that $2.59 range. We're currently at $1.86 using our current prices. And with the increase that we're proposing, we'll be at $2.11, so we're going to get closer. But it'll take several years of smaller increases to get us at that range. And the $2.59 rate will increase each year as well as they increase reimbursement rates. So it's, will we ever get there? I don't know, but we keep making ground.
Mark, I'm concerned that we're just going to be, not getting there, and we're still going to be pretty much on the low end. I mean,
yeah, and that is why
I personally would rather someone's going to give me an increase, do it one time, get it over with, than do it gradually, and
right
over the next few years.
And I agree with you, because it would be nice if we could just do an increase this year and then not have to do one for a couple of years. But the requirement under the paid lunch equity program that the USDA has brought up is, as long as you're under that $2.59, you have to do a minimum of 10 cents a year. So we would either have to increase way up to get to the $2.59 rate, and then as they increase reimbursements, we would then have to still keep raising. So their goal is that there's a continual increase. It's not that we do it once and then wait 5 years and do it again. It's they want to see us doing it on a gradual basis and continually increasing, because food cost goes up and everything goes up. And with the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act, with the new regulations and requiring more fruits and vegetables in quantity, not so much in variety, it creates a higher food cost. And
Mark, do you anticipate that if we take this increase, we'll be able to maintain the 10 cent
yes,
for the next few years and not have to increase more
correct.
than that in order to be in compliance?
We won't have to jump in and do another 25-cent increase. If we do 10 cents a year, we're going to stay in compliant, and we're going to get to the point that either we'll have another recertification in another 5 years and they change the rules, or we get to the point that we're okay. But it's going to mean pretty much every year we're going to be looking at some kind of an increase.
Mark, how many of our kids are on free and reduced lunch right now? What's our percentage?
We have
60% of our students
60%.
receive.
So this is going to impact about 40% of our students and parents, correct?
correct.
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to be about $43.25 a year increase for any of the paid students.
Paid students.
And that would be 171 lunches.
I still don't think you're asking enough.
Pretty good value.
Yeah.
Couldn't go anywhere else and get that.
I mean, I don't know anywhere that you can go and have breakfast for $1.25.
I agree.
I think our shortfall has been,
I
honestly,
just worry about how it's going to affect our nutrition program and the quality of what we're going to be able to give our kids if we don't try to do more.
right.
Remember, we serve every child breakfast free.
Yes.
And what we recover in terms of subsidized reimbursement from the government pays our cost almost entirely for doing that.
For breakfast.
So that's almost a break-even project.
And our intention is to continue the free breakfast, which is a huge benefit even in that too, with considering where we're at in comparison to our neighbors.
Now, I thought it was very interesting, and again, not to spotlight anything, but one of our neighbors, the lowest of our neighbors on elementary breakfast cost was $1.25, and we were at 85 cents. That's almost 50% lower than their cost, to be real honest. When you look at the lunches, they ranged from $2.50 as the high, and we were at $1.75, 75 cents different for the same. So we really have tried to hold our prices down, and I'll just be quite frank with you, we feel like our parents and students, that with the way the economy's been, we simply felt like that was the right thing for us to do. However, with the regulations being what they are and with the cost being what they are, we've kind of run out of options that we, to be able to hold it.
Well, I mean, it looks like, you know, the neighbors on both sides of us, one is at 355 and one is at 375, so we're asking 325. I mean, I just feel like we're real low on that, but I'll move for approval.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Ronio?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Item E, periodically through the year, we have given you information regarding the district budget. Mrs. Brandstetter is here this evening to give you another update on the budget. And
Oh, good.
so,
On page 15 of the agenda, as before, I wanted to keep it kind of in the same format that I gave it to you before, so I won't go into a lot of detail on all of them, but if you have any questions, just stop me and I'll kind of answer them as we go. You can see what we've collected in each of the major categories of revenue for the months of July through April, which I show you the prior year and where we are currently today. And then the second box there is where we are year to date for that same sources of revenue. What I really wanted to touch on more than anything is the final box there, what our budgets are compared to what our projections are. And if you go to the bottom, it shows that we are within $35,000 of what our original projections were going to be. That's pretty close. And that's probably about the best that we're going to be able to get. I will remind everyone that on the state land earnings, that before it showed a kind of an odd figure there, and it was because they had given us an additional $700,000 in the prior year. I went ahead and took that out of the picture so that it would line back up with where I had originally come up with those projections. And I think we're looking good on all of that. So yes, some of them are up, some of them are down, but overall, I think they are going to come in pretty much on the mark. Okay.
Over 35 or under 35?
Actually, it's going to be better than that because the state land earning actually came in today. And when I put it back into this figure today, it's actually up above 100,000. So, but because I reported it this way, this is how I have to report it, but we actually got a collection today that was even higher. So,
Very
so it even is better than that.
Yes.
Okay. On page 16, again, talking about the expenditures and where we are in relative terms of what we've actually paid out. Again, we remember we broke it down to what was the district-wide, and then we removed all the federal programs so that we could actually kind of see exactly where the district is without the federal programs into the picture. So on the district-wide part of it, our budget is set at $98 million. As of April 16th, we had expended $67 million, but our revenue, much different than it was in October, we have collected $83 million. So we, total-wise, if you put what we anticipate spending together, which is column B, the encumbrances also, we will be at 98% spending of our budget, which is, again, I think that's pretty much where when we set the budget originally, that's pretty much where we had anticipated it coming out to be. I also took a look at how much of it was going to be salaries and benefits related to non-salaries and benefits, and they are coming in pretty much exactly what we had budgeted originally in the original budget. Okay, and then you can also see that the federal programs, where they're at, they're $18 million of our budget. We've expended about $12 million of it, and we've also collected about $12 million. We really expended $12,600,000. So we are pretty much on the mark, getting our federal dollars back in every month. The State Department has a new system where we have to actually submit them online now, so that last year was a little challenging because it's new, you know, all the kinks in the programs and that sort of thing, but we pretty much embraced that system, and you have to do a monthly now. It used to be quarterly, so it's kind of increased the workload, but we as a team have decided that we just wanted to embrace it, and on the first day of the month, that's our goal, is to get them out by the 5th day of the month. They're not due until the 3rd week of the month, but we don't want to give that delay. Kind of like want to say if we get ours in first, then we get our money back first. So that's the approach that we've kind of taken on it. Okay. Exactly. Exactly. Okay.
Too much truth.
True. So overall, I would say when you put it all back together, you can see where the general fund is. We're at $117 million. We have totally expended out $79 million, but we've taken in $95 million. So our cash flow is in better condition than it is. Again, we kind of alluded to that at the first presentation, that in the first 6 months of the year, our cash flow is a little trickier than it is this 6 months of the year. So we're in good shape there. I do want to, and on the next pages, it shows all the details if you wanted to actually get down to the nitty-gritty of which projects which and who's brought what in and that sort of thing. So I wanted to go ahead and let you have that too. But one thing I do want to also touch on is there's a piece of information back in the consent agenda, which is the increase and decreases of the revenue in general. There's one line item that is probably in particular, is the state aid adjustment that we got in January. It was $3.2 million, which was good news to the district. I do want to say that we did, if you'll recall, when we set the original budget, there were some adjustments that we had to make. We made some adjustments to what we thought we could hold back the expenses on, such as substitutes, overtime, increase and decreases on salaries, and that sort of thing. So we have had to readjust some of those things. We've had to readjust the amount of subs by $365,000, a little bit on overtime, about $80,000, the increases and decreases on salaries of about $200,000, which that's pretty much normal in any year from the time you set a budget to the where, you know, people leave, come and go, retirements, that sort of thing. So that's kind of normal, that line item change. But the one other one was we moved $450,000 to the levy for utilities. We did revert them back to the general fund in order to keep the levy intact with its carryover, so they will have money to start up the next year each time. So we wanted to do that. Now, the three items that were not relative to what budget adjustments we made that did impact this state aid adjustment also was $225,000 for the summer school, the special ed summer school budget that we approved a month or so ago. The health insurance premiums, as you know, the state decides how much they're going to reimburse you, and from time to time that changes. So that's kind of a moving target until we get to the end. And a few minor miscellaneous revenue adjustments that were made, about, again, only about $27,000 increase and decrease on those miscellaneous items. So when we set the revenue projections, they're pretty tight and they're pretty much on the mark. So with all those adjustments made, the district, if we close today, we would have a carryover of $1.8 million, which is in good shape, but from where we have been in the past.
Yes.
I do want to point out a couple other things, a couple of positive impacts that will affect that $1.8 million. There's, we charge all the federal programs what we call a premium for the workers' comp. We only do that once a year at the end of the year after all the salaries are done. So that hasn't been done yet. And the indirect costs that we also regain from the federal programs, we only do that once a year too. So that will be a positive impact to that figure. Now, some of the negative impacts to that figure will be, again, the health insurance, increases and decreases on that, the accounts receivable on the adjustment to the contract that we had on Kuntz. Okay, we have yet to get that revenue into the budget, so that may impact that carryover also. Of course, substitutes, you know, that's always going to be in up or down, and salaries. And the one that we kind of learned today, and Mr. Beecham may allude to this one, is the reading sufficiency. Would you like to add anything on that, Mr. Beecham?
We have been informed that even though the state did not give us reading sufficiency money this summer to have a summer academy with, that we're required to have a summer academy. That will be approximately $120,000 cost. We are in the process of reviewing the legislation that put it in place. There are other districts not looking at not having those costs, and we will be able to work with them. And It's not that we do not wish to have the academy, but the legislation says it will be funded by reading sufficiency money, and they didn't give us any. So there needs to be zero.
And is this a mandate to the
Yes.
state?
It was what we call an unfunded mandate in this instance.
We have several of them.
The other instance, or to answer your question regarding step increases here, if indeed we did do that, you would start the beginning of next year with no money, and you have an immediate $1.3 million obligation to start that. So it's not going to be my recommendation to do that. I would not want to leave the incoming superintendent in that situation because we're looking at roughly, as I'm projecting right now, roughly $700,000 to $800,000 cut in impact aid and other federal funds. And that's going to come off of this as well as next year's step increase and so forth. So while that would be nice, I don't think that that's practical, prudent, or good fiduciary responsible action at this point. I want to go back on a couple of things Mrs. Brentsetter pointed out, the movement of the money back into the levy. Had that not happened on July 1st through December 31st of next year, our maintenance department would have had $0 to operate on because we had basically taken their first dollars for out of next year's budget and put back in to help offset. If you'll remember, we had a $6.5 million shortfall at the beginning of this year. We cut approximately $3 million plus worth of personnel cost by reductions, and then the other cuts that Mrs. Brentsetter has alluded to that were made to try to offset the other amount. So considering where we were 9 months ago at this point, things they look bright, but the reality is that they are still going to be tight, they're still going to be tough, and truthfully next year may be the most challenging of the years in the last few years. So I think it's prudent that we move forward on the same course we're on right now, and certainly there will be tweaks and turns. There are always things like today being informed that we were required to do that. We're obviously going to fuss and fume about that, but we don't win a lot of those battles. Unfortunately, they can say do it, and we'll fund it, and then not fund it, and we still have to do it. So we will continue to work on trying to find the best way to make that happen. For the most part, as Mr. Brentsetter has alluded to, our budgeting was tight to start with. It stayed tight all year, but fortunately it's holding across the board. We're seeing a few spikes here and a few dips there, but they're offsetting each other, and we're a lot of prayers from last September are being answered at this point that we would be in a solvent position. So we are there, and we just have to hope that we can maintain it for the next couple of months. And as Dr. Deegan comes on board and takes the helm, that he will have a good opportunity at setting a good course for the district.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, very much.
Oh, good job, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
And that
And Mr. Beecham.
well, thanks. That concludes my report for this evening.
Do we have any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda?
No, I do not.
I hear a motion.
Second?
Call roll, please.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Ms. Romeo?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Do we have any need for executive session? I'm not aware of any tonight.
None that I'm aware of either. Yes, sir.
Superintendent's personnel report.
I would ask you to consider and take action to approve the recommendations for the certified and support transaction as they appear on pages 178 through 181. If you will notice from about 179 on, tremendous number of resignations. One of the reasons there seems to be an abundance of that, it's not that there are that many more occurring this year. There seem to be a few more, But because of a change in the retirement law, it requires people to notify the state earlier that that's their intention. If they do not do that, then they jeopardize getting their first retirement check, and they lose a month's pay. So we're getting it in more of a lump early on than we were in a stretched out process previously. But I would recommend the approval of those as they're presented.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Ms. Romeo? Yes. Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Is there any new business tonight? Next regular board meeting day is Monday, May 6th, 2013, here in Shoemaker Auditorium. Are there any other dates that we need to set?
I think you may have one of those months where you actually just have 2 board meetings.
That would be-
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Not sure we'll know how to do that.
Is being reinstated, rescind retirement.
Any board announcements?
None for me.
Consideration of motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Romeo?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.